What's up, friends? Another podcast from me, but it's not a new one. This is an oldie. You've seen us before, and we're now hitting season 3. Sell me this pro. BDog is back. Where's the fish, friend?
Oh, well, they're at home. I moved out. I moved places in between seasons, and the fish are still at my mum's right now. So hopefully soon, but at the moment it's just me and my computer.
In a plain white room, empty
There's literally
walls.
nothing here in the house except for my
Mm,
bed and my desk.
I love it though. I love it. Okay, well, congratulations on your
Thank you.
spot. We'll if you're someone in the comments and you have some things in your house that you don't need, send them BDog's way to decorate his
Please, I
house.
need furniture.
He needs furniture. Just send him some random stuff. I'll put his address in the description. No, I'm kidding. Uh, we've got a whole new show lined up. We think because we realized after season 2 we needed to shake it up a little bit. Obviously, the premise of Sell Me This Pro was it was in the name, so I don't need to really describe it. But now we kind of want to shake it up a bit because one of the things I think I started to realize during that show is that the most interesting topics along a lot of the time, or the ones that got the most attention, were specifically like tier 2 players making the break into tier 3 into tier 1, and BDog giving us a little bit of an explanation as to who they are and why we should pay attention. I thought that was really important, but then also like shining a light on a lot of what's going on in tier 2, because and BDog, like, this is something you are commentating all the time, so you are like, everything that's going on. You're watching all of these teams and you have like insights into tier 2. But I think for the majority of competitive CS fans, their insight is coming from HLTV forums, Reddit, and X. So when there's drama, that's when they're paying attention to tier 2, and the rest of the time they have no cooking clue what's happening.
Oh, that's pretty a fair assessment, to be honest. I mean, the reality with tier 2 and tier 3 Counter Strike, I think, because you're in a spot this year where obviously the circuit has opened up. We'll talk about that because it's opened up, right? But you've now got a lot more tier 1 events, and what has been a mainstay throughout all of this is the sheer abundance of tier 2, tier 3. I think what's great about tier 2 and tier 3 is that you can drop into HLTV, for example, and you'll see, damn, there's a lot of games going on in tier 2, tier 3 Counter-Strike. And I think it's because there's so much of it, it's really easy to just almost have it as white noise and completely not pay attention to it. But this year, especially with the VRS points and how it works and how invites are being distributed, it matters a lot more now, and I think it's really important to pay attention to tier 2 and tier 3. I'll obviously be a bit biased towards tier 2 and tier 3 because that is where I spend 80% of my workforce. That's what I do on the daily. But yeah, it definitely is important now with the VRS implications, and I think it's just interesting when you do see a player that gets that promotion. You wonder, oh, who he is, where has he come from? Has he come out of nowhere? No, this kid's been playing in tier 2 for the last 2 years, but no one's really noticed except the diehard fans.
There you go. Now we are going to jump into this particular episode where we're going to touch on, as an introduction into season 3, a lot of the spicy stuff that comes with tier 2. Some players that BDog wants to keep an eye on as well, but focusing in on particularly what you were saying there about the open circuit and what that meant for the tier 2, tier 3 tournaments. Before we do that, we actually have a sponsor for this show now. I suppose you can call them a sponsor. But what we're going to ask is, I'm going to give you a minute of your time for an ad that you can't skip through, and I'm sorry in advance, but we just, we got to buy BDog some furniture.
When you prepare for a game, you need to take everything with you. Everything that gives you confidence in victory. Something inseparable from you, or something that inspires you. Your concentration is the key to success. With every second and every click, you are getting closer to victory.
Okay, there you go. If you're interested, there's a link in the description to Skin Club. Go check it out. Thank you for allowing us to get BDog furniture. Let's jump straight into this.
Thank
okay,
you.
We said spicy, BDog. I want to be a bit spicy. Cheating in tier 2 is all I ever see on X. It's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. Unfortunately, I have Cassad on my social feed nonstop. But this has been a conversation that I have seen and that I've kind of followed for forever, but I haven't really, when I say followed, I've just watched the conversation. I haven't really deep dived into it. So tier 2 cheating, is it become worse now that that it is sort of an open system, if you like, or was it always what it is?
I don't think it's got worse. I think there's probably more egregious examples of it that you can see because there are sort of open qualifiers to big events. And before we get into this, I want to preface this by saying I'm not going to accuse anyone here, guys. Like, I know you're going to really want me, the tier 2 caster guy, to say these guys are definitely cheating, these guys are doing this. I'm not going to do that. So I'm trying to get that out of the way first. But I think it's always been very prevalent. And I saw a YouTube short, I think, that you had with Fret, where he was basically just saying, look, this is always going to be everywhere. And that's the reality. I think people are going to niche this into Counter-Strike because obviously people will follow their circles of what you're interested in, right? And Counter-Strike gaming is definitely one of them, but it is niche. However, with that being said, cheating in a community / match fixing / trying to have a competitive advantage to win is prevalent across all shapes of walks of life. Like, this is not Counter-Strike dependent. This is everywhere. And it has been around the scene for a while. There's been a lot of allegations of match fixing. There's been a lot of allegations of cheating, whether that comes from radar cheating, whether that comes deliberately from aim cheating. And obviously we've seen in the tier 2 space specifically players that have been prosecuted, like Joel, because he actually did have cheats. You've also got teams that get banned because they've either got active bans on Faceit for abusing the system. There was one incident a few months ago where this team was playing an open qualifier and they said they were playing it legit, but one of the players was banned on Faceit, and his justification on Twitter was, well, I was having fun with my friends, why should that affect me down the line? Of course it should affect you down the line. Actions have consequences. But in a long story short, yes, it is still prevalent. Yes, it has always been prevalent. I would say the majority of games aren't influenced by it, but with how many people are so quote unquote trading tips, how many documentaries have been released about the amount of Telegram groups or WhatsApp groups there are about match fixing in tier 2, it probably is quite rampant. I mean, it's kind of easy to sell a game because of the quantity of them, going back to the original point, because there's so many of them, because a lot of these competitions also operate in Swiss stages. If you let one team get a map and then you can come back, that's good. And that's kind of easy to do. So it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I think I'd be a lot less surprised if people said, oh yeah, like 30% of games were match fixed, or even more, to be honest.
So I'm curious, when you've been commentating games, I don't actually know if you can answer this question.
Okay.
I mean, you know exactly where I'm going, right?
I know where you're going with this.
Been in a situation where you're like, oh, something doesn't smell right with this particular match?
Fuck it, I'll answer it. Yeah, it's happened. It hasn't happened loads, but it definitely has happened in my time as a commentator in tier 2 and tier 3. And the thing about it is you have to keep commentating it. But after every series, what I have done is I've reached out to, firstly, my point of contact who hires me in the first instance. Then I reach out to someone else and I say, this is a wider issue that needs to be raised within the competitive integrity team, if the TO has one, or this should be raised to the admin. I thought this was a little bit suspicious. And normally what I do as well is I will take a couple of Twitch clips and say, look, this is why I think this. I won't just say this guy looks sus. It has happened before. Like, I'm not going to beat around the bush, and all I've done is just forwarded it forward, and then what people do with that info is what people do with that info. At the end of the day, I'm one of those people where I'm definitely glass half empty more than glass half full. And to be honest, over the last year, I've been learning to be a little bit more optimistic, right? But I think if I see something, I'd rather just forward it over to the relevant parties, rather be safe than sorry. But that's only happened like a few instances, like not a great deal, to be honest, when I've been working.
It's also really tough though. So I know, obviously now in CS, I'm not really that involved in the tier 2 games, so I'm not necessarily seeing it. But when I was doing a lot of CS in South Africa when I first started, obviously it's this really small competitive community, right? We're not very big. And so when there were tournaments running, we tried to do these like online qualifiers and leagues. And there was one that we were doing, it was a big cell phone brand. Samsung did this like CS, I can't even remember the name now. CS Championship or whatever, but they were online qualifiers. And a team that qualified for the finals, which was going to be on LAN, it was like a huge, in South Africa, we have like one LAN a year. So this was the second LAN. It was a big deal. This team qualified for LAN, and obviously there was a couple of other teams stepped forward and said, listen, like we think that there's been some cheating happening here. We're not 100% happy. Obviously they weren't match fixing necessarily. They were cheating to get into the finals. And I remember that the conversation happened because there were some games that were being streamed. This team hadn't been streamed yet, but everyone's sitting in a room, and I'm talking like the observers and the admins. There wasn't a lot of us. It was less than 10. And this was commentators and hosts included. And the conversation was very simply like, this is a big accusation to make. If we kick them out, we have to be able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's sometimes difficult in an online space. And I think that's, especially also if games haven't necessarily been on the broadcast, like it can get really tough because, you know, the observer can say, and in this case, our observer was like, listen, it's 100% something's not right. But like, again, it's such a difficult thing to quote unquote prove, right?
Yeah, it's really difficult. And I think as well, to a certain extent as well, you got to trust all the admins that sort of operate in these TOs. For example, like I'll just name a few like TOs in tier 2, right? Like CCT, who I work for pretty dependently, so I will exclude them from this, but just as a general, right? CCT, Yala, Elisa, you've also got like European Pro League. You've got SCL that was kicking about. All these guys have got tournament admins that have been tournament admin for a very long time. Like there's a lot of things that go into to an esports tournament just beyond obviously who you see playing and working. There is also like a behind the scenes team. I know there's TOs that have got like their own sort of independent team as well that is dealing with like competitive integrity, and everything has to be pretty strict based on what VRS says as well, and what Valve is governing this year. I think there's definitely more into it, right? But you gotta trust the people that go behind there. And yeah, again, on Twitter there are some interesting examples of maybe like match admins on Twitter, but again, they're not the tournament admins. They're just in that game. There's a whole team behind them. There's a whole team behind them. There is, I think, a lot more to a broadcast. There's a lot more in terms of going on, making sure things are okay than people might think. So I think that's an interesting point to make as well. But yeah, it's really difficult, and this is why I guess strictly independent parties like ESIC, hello, where are you, by the way, did exist. Because there was a lot of this going on, and yeah, they dealt with a few issues, but I don't know what they're doing now. To be honest, I mean, anyone really knows what's going on with them.
So let's be clear. Obviously, we're using the term cheating as broadly as we
very
possibly
broad.
can. Yeah, but I mean, if we are to narrow it down, okay, let's focus in on cheating specifically for now. The ENCE drama that happened recently. So this is a team that has been pretty vocal in the last, and since the open circuit, right, beginning of the year, ENCE they are having to grind through tier 2, tier 3 to try and qualify for LANs, meaning that they are pretty vocal about what's going on in those games, and they have on occasion, and I think they've done it recently, come out and gone, hey, here's a clip, we think this is suspicious, straight out, and kind of drawn attention to those things.
Yeah, so if you want to talk about the ENCE stuff, there was a team called ROSY that they were playing against, and basically this blends into a bigger issue that I want to talk about as well when it comes to like camera placement for broadcast, but also just camera placement in general for tournaments. We'll talk about that as an aside. And we're focusing specifically on what happened in this incident. Basically, in tier 2, one of the accusations that gets thrown around a lot is the use of radar. And what that basically is it's external assistance that gets put onto the game, whether you are using a different monitor entirely, or maybe some instances it's a laptop. I've seen clips of where it's basically relaying information from the game and it's telling the team exactly where the enemies are. And as a result, you get these perfect timings or these really convenient pushes from the other team based off nothing. They'll walk through a smoke on a random timing. They won't throw any utility, and they'll just magically catch you as soon as you've turned your back after you've been holding that angle for 30 seconds. Is that Counter-Strike timing, or do they magically know what's going on? You've made a lot of noise over towards the B bomb site. You've deliberately and meticulously planned out this fake. You've dropped everything. You even sent a couple of players in. They're having a gunfight. Then you go in towards the other bomb site, and there's 3 or 4 guys there. Like, why has that happened? That's your bare bones example of radar cheating. And yeah, ENCE have been very vocal about it. The clips that have been submitted and sent more often than not are pretty damning. Like, there's some ridiculous rotations, and you might be sat there thinking, if you're a little bit unexperienced, or if you're just a passive watcher of Counter-Strike, you're thinking, well, why are they accusing them? Like, they just had a good read. It can boil down to that sometimes, and there have been instances where teams, I think, have definitely come out the woodwork and have looked very good and have got, I think, unnecessarily slated on Twitter. I think the rise of Passion UA last year, a lot of people were doubting their abilities. Then they went to LANs and they got given the respect. The same with Namiga as well. Then they went to a res event. Like, it's understandable that because it happens in isolated incidents, as soon as a team that you don't really know can come out and beat someone, everyone will just jump on the bandwagon and just start hating them. And I don't like that aspect of it. But I understand to a certain extent, because there are bad apples in the scene, but you're going to get that in whatever scene you're in. But directly, that's what happened with ENCE, and then it was found out that they were sort of, using external assistance. But it's also on the TO to enforce correct camera protocols, and we can jump into that whenever you want. But I've got a lot of strong opinions on that before.
Off topic though, because this just made me think of something really funny that I want to share. It's got absolutely no relevance to this, but it was really funny. So my boyfriend's mother, obviously, so I suppose my mother-in-law, if you like, even though we're not married, she came to our house and we were watching competitive CS, and for the first time she like sat down and she was asking me to explain it. So she sat and she watched. She was like super interested, and I think it was like an hour in, and she was like, I don't really get the skill. So I was like, sorry, what? And she was like, because I mean, they can see where they are. Why aren't they hitting them? And I realized that while she was watching the X-ray on a broadcast where we can see where everyone is, she thought the players were seeing the same thing, and she thought it was absolutely shocking that they were missing their shots. So there
My
you go.
doorbell's just gone. I'm sorry.
Surprise guest. The magic of editing means we're back in, but I'm going to leave the bit where BDog's doorbell rang. I thought it was a surprise guest. It wasn't a surprise guest. BDog, what was it?
It's coat hooks in my hallway.
But you started with, it was furniture. You should have led with that. I got so excited for you. And then you were like, it is coat hooks.
I think it is anyway. I don't know. I ordered a bunch of stuff the other day, and this is the smallest box, so I imagine it is that. I assembled a shoe rack earlier. This is what it's like being an adult.
Isn't it fun? If you are planning on sending BDog furniture, please don't send him a shoe rack or clothes hooks, because he now has those.
Thank you.
Think about some other things. Okay, let's get back into it. Where were we? The doorbell rang.
You're talking about your mum-in-law and the fact that they couldn't. Why are they not shooting the people? Because we can see.
Yeah, she really believed that was how it is. And when you were talking about radar, it just made me remember that conversation. And then having to try and explain to her that that's not what they were seeing. That was what we were seeing. And obviously, when you speak to someone over 60 who's never played a game before, it didn't make sense. But anyway, completely off on a tangent. It was just thought of that conversation and the argument that ensued.
It took my mum, I think, about a month to realise that after I told her, because obviously BDog #1 fan is BDog's mum, and so she watches sort of. In fact, she probably watches more tier 2 Counter-Strike than all of you watching this, to be honest. She's the GOAT. Shout out BDog mum. But also, it took her about like 3 weeks to a month to then realise. And she was like, wow, that's actually really skillful that they don't know what's happening. I was like,
surprise.
Yeah, that's the game, actually.
But, My mom used to say to me she doesn't, and she would try and watch, and then she'd be like, "I just don't understand why they keep interrupting you with the cartoons." And I had to be like, "That's the game, mom." But there you go. So okay, so this was obviously the ENCE conversations. They've been pretty vocal about it. NIP's been pretty vocal about it. All of these teams coming into it. The camera placement thing, though, is something that you and I have spoken about off podcast. We're going to speak about it now because this is it a simple enough fix as going, hey, as TOs, like be a little bit stricter about where these players set up their cameras?
I think it goes an awfully long way, and I think the MRQs was a really good example of good camera placement. If you go back and look at the camera placement for all of these players, what you can see is you can see them directly. It is basically a third-person view, so it's not me looking at you head-on. It is, you've got object permanence, basically, because you've got the computer, you've got the game on their screen. It looks like there's nothing on either side of the desks. They're only using one monitor. You can see them. It is clearly them playing the game. Brilliant. That is everything we need in a camera broadcast. And for, I think a lot of TOs are lazy. Like, I'm just going to call that out. A lot of TOs do not enforce the rules. Sometimes they go, "Oh, you got your camera on? Cool." And a lot of players don't actually have webcams. They use their phones. So they sometimes get connected on Discord, for example, or they get given a different link to connect to a broadcast. And what you don't know, guys, is that, especially, I'll just talk CCT generally right now. I'm sure they won't mind me saying this because I actually think they're one of the better ones to do it. During group stage games, you know, like on the HUD where you don't see the players, every game for CCT, they've got cameras in the background, and that is to enforce and watch. So if you're watching a broadcast or in Tier 2, I can't speak about any other TOs, I can only talk about CCT where I do the majority of my work. They enforce camera guidelines, and they say, "Look, guys, we've got to maybe take a little bit of a pause in between maps." And we're like, "Oh, okay, no problem. Why? Is there like technical issues?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're just like resetting up their cameras because most players will turn their cameras off between maps. Completely fine. Your privacy when you're not playing." But just side note that there are cameras on them when they are playing games, even if you cannot see the cameras. There is definitely that, which I think is firstly a good thing. But the counterpoint to that is that where you have the angle matters quite a lot, because it's one thing. Imagine if I was playing Counter-Strike now. You would never know I was playing Counter-Strike now and doing this podcast. That's the thing I'm kind of annoyed about, because I think we need, especially as most of the pros use their phones, let's have it set up on the windowsill where I can see everything. I can just see one monitor. I spoke about the MRQs. I think near the CCT Global Finals, there was some accusations of some teams that maybe were playing there, maybe weren't playing there, and then suddenly all the cameras were introduced, and some players and some teams didn't do well at that certain event compared to how they did a couple of weeks before, because you've
I
got
wonder why.
all the correct stuff set up. Not accusing, just saying.
It's an observation. We're not making accusations,
Yes.
just observations.
But I get really annoyed when some of the pro cameras are, what's the best word to describe it? Absolute shit, and no one enforces it at all. And I care a lot because obviously I care about the scene. I don't want people to be screwed over. I don't want there to be bad actors in the scene. It makes me look like a bit of a dickhead as well if I'm casting you and I'm thinking I'm literally like gassing you up and I'm saying, "Oh, you're doing such a good job," and you're cheating. Like, well, what's the benefit to that? So yeah, I get really annoyed. I've stopped. I don't know if I should be leaking this, but why not? I've stopped games. I've forced a technical pause before to get cameras sorted out because I've said live on broadcast that camera is atrocious and that needs to be sorted out. And then they've listened to me and they've called a pause and they've sorted it, which is great. Cool. I'm like, this is go me. Sure, I've sorted that out. But why do I have to be the one that says that? Why can't we just have consistent applicable rules for every TO? Why can't there just be a little book? Why can't Valve provide this, for example? Maybe Valve do provide this, but okay, why don't we enforce it? It's not hard, guys. Like, it's really not difficult, and we can avoid all of this little accusations if we just have the proper tools in place, if we have the proper guidelines in place, it will stop a lot of people. And maybe people will find different ways, sure, but that's probably a really good compromise.
So we've obviously, like, we're picking up on the camera angle thing, but I mean, this also goes a little bit further because cheating also encompasses match fixing, which is the thing that Cassard has hit home. I mean, there's some Feed the Trolls episodes, if you want to go all the way back, where he just, like, he was just going ham about it. And I get it. It's frustrating. He was also in a situation where he was coaching a team that had to grind through tier 2. But I mean, this is now a next step in the iteration, right? And it is a big problem because at the beginning of the year, with the whole new VRS coming into play, I mean, there was that whole issue with, I think it was CCT, who had, like, they basically had a ban book of, like, teams that they knew were problematic.
It was
and
Grid,
all of a sudden, oh, sorry, Grid, I apologize. But, like, they knew that there was certain problems, and those conversations had obviously happened with other TOs, and now you're no longer allowed to say, no, sorry, don't come play in our tournament, right? And you kind of know what you're bringing in. How the hell do you stop match fixing, though? Because this is something without, like, I mean, Issa couldn't do it when they were around. How the hell do we get that one right?
I don't think you can. I think that the honest answer is, and the honest answer doesn't always have to be the best answer. I don't know that you can, because of how untraceable it potentially can be. Because obviously a lot of people, they the stories, guys, and I'll recap very briefly obviously what I know in it, and it's basically some random bloke will add you on Discord and he goes, "Can you throw your game and I'll pay you a big amount of money." Normally, this big amount of money is all in crypto. And crypto bros don't hate me, but comparing crypto to actual cash, it's basically fun pretend money. So because of that, we now have these massive amounts of money, right? And yes, you can trade your crypto for real money, sure. But because these people got a lot of it, the value of throwing a game goes from, say, like, I would give you, I won't do this, but £500 in my hypothetical example, compared to, I will send you a crypto payment of £20,000, £30,000. I've seen screenshots where it's like, I'll give you $60,000 to throw a game. It's ridiculous. Like, it's life-changing money. Like, it really is. And the reason why people do this is because you message enough people, they throw one game, they think, oh, it's only one game, and I'll earn an amount of money. And I think people have got to recognize as well that 50,000, 30,000, based on where you live, right? Some countries, that is a lot of money. That is like 3-4x like a salary. And if any org that you join, do you want to ruin your reputation? Okay, well, if it means I can't play on basically a team in tier 1, but it means that I've spent a month throwing games and I've made like $500,000, that's completely fine. And these numbers sound ridiculous because they are ridiculous, but it is the sad reality of it. So no, I don't think you can ever get rid of it. VRS obviously has a lot of implication on it, but there will be players that will not be playing for VRS. There will be players that are playing for money. There will be players that do not care how it affects you. People have no morals. People that have no morals cheats. People that have no morals match fix. And you had that meme guy in NA. Like, I don't know if you've seen this guy on Twitter. I can't remember his name, but he, like, hilarious account, and then he just released his twit longer, and he was like, yeah, I joined with a team of cheaters and we were throwing games. It was so much money for me. And I was like, what? Like, what? Well, how has this happened then? It can happen anywhere. It can happen everywhere. It's ridiculous.
It's also like, so when Threat was, again, so it's a Feed the Trolls episode where Threat was talking about NIP trying to, like, rebuild and get through tier 2, and he kept bringing it up where he said, like, you have cheating in every sport. You have match fixing. There is match fixing at like, shocker if you don't know this. There is match fixing at the highest level in some sports. I'm from South Africa. Cricket is like a big deal here. Like, many years ago when I was a kid, our captain of our cricket team got implicated in match fixing. It turned out the captain of our South African cricket team, and we were one of the best cricket teams in the world. And it was like big shocker, but that is what it is. And unfortunately, like, we've seen this as well. Like, and I do think that this is a conversation that doesn't happen enough, is that we take very young individuals, 16, 17, they give up everything to play this game. And whether or not that's right or wrong, I saw Babsky was tweeting about this the other. That's a whole other that's a whole other episode we can do. But the issue is you take someone who is 16, 17, they are now grinding this game. Now suddenly they hit 23, 24. They haven't made a tier 1 team yet, right? They're still grinding along in tier 2. They're trying to pay their rent. Maybe they don't come from a cheap country. Like maybe they are somewhere expensive. And then there's some dude in their Discord or on TeamSpeak or Steam or whatever else, or Twitter DMs offering them, like you said, BDog, life-changing money. And this is someone who has given up everything. They haven't studied further. They've blown through their savings to play this game. They've, by this point, have kind of gone, I'm probably not going to be playing on the Cologne stage. I've accepted that. Of course they're going to take the money. Of course they're going to take the money. Like, and it's so blatantly obvious. And there's no safety net in place to stop that. And the ugly truth is, I don't think that there should be. I just don't think that's anyone's responsibility to take on. But it does mean that we have a sort of ugly situation. Do you think, though, that it is more spoken about now because of VRS and because a lot of the quote-unquote bigger teams are coming across it more than they would probably like?
Oh, absolutely. If it didn't affect the bigger teams, then there wouldn't be this much noise about it. Like the NIPs, the ENCEs, for example, and that's a reality of VRS. So yes, VRS is a good thing for this. I think just to backtrack just a few seconds, I think it's a really brilliant point that you've just made. Also, think about the age of everyone playing this game when they start out young. Look at the prospects that we've got in the scene. We've got Donk, we've got Kiyosuke, we've got Manasi, who are like under 20 years old. Look, these kids, I'm not saying they are, but I'm just saying in general, kids that are playing this game, you use the example of maybe haven't made it yet. Imagine if you're 16, 17, 18, you're still really impressionable. Like your brain doesn't fully stop growing until you're 25, right? So you are an impressionable young person, and it's one of those where you see that and you think, oh, okay, that seems like a good idea. Don't think about the consequences. That's how people get marked up in it. That's how people get blacklisted from events in secret. That's how teams do not being picked up. But at the end of the day, maybe that's completely fine for them. And also, I really want to state, match fixing doesn't mean lose the game, or it doesn't mean lose the game 2-0. It could be, can you take a map? Are you able to lose the pistol? Are you able to maybe lose a certain round? Can you get under this many kills? It is actually ridiculous. If you go into a Twitch chat of any tier 2, tier 3 tournament, you see what people are betting on. Like, people who are betting on these games go crazy. Do you? Sure. But you can bet on the amount of headshots someone can get. You can bet on whether it's under or over the amount of kills they can get in a best of 3. That is bonkers to me. Like, it's actually bonkers to me. So you can go ahead and you can win your best of 3, but can you actually just play like 15% less than you normally do, so I can bet underneath the amount of kills you normally get, and I'll make a boatload of money. It reminds me quite a lot of, you spoke about the cricket players. In football, Ivan Toney got banned for a long time. Recently, because he was betting on himself, and he was betting on himself to win the games. He can't obviously influence that massively, and he was never betting on himself to lose. He was never betting on himself to like have a bad game. He was actually betting on himself to do well. But it's still the same point. It's still the same principle. And I think that's the thing that I really wanted to hammer home, is that we're speaking about match fixing. Match fixing in the vacuum is basically, oh, you are fixing a result that everyone's mind jumps to, oh, they're losing the game, they are throwing the game. No, it can be on absolutely anything. It can be on the amount of total rounds that you've lost. It can be everything and anything.
I think it's so important that you brought this up, because it just showcases how deep it goes, right?
Really deep.
It's not just throw the game like that. That's at the most basic level. It is little things, like you said. It can be like, don't win the pistols, don't do this, or do this or do that or whatever else. And it could be something so small that to you watching or me watching is just something that normally happens in a game of CS, and we think nothing of it. Maybe it's a knife kill. It's a random knife kill, and we go, oh, that was so cool. Also ninja defuse or something else. Meanwhile, there was an actual conversation that happened beforehand where someone was asking for that.
I think the grey area one that people talk about a lot, and again, I've got no idea, but I'm just going to make this one up because I think people will resonate with it the most, is there was this big event that was being held. I actually can't remember what the event was, but I know Na'Vi were playing in it, and an M249 was bought randomly just for no reason. It was thrown on the floor. It was in CS:GO, and it was at a point where they didn't actually have like that much money, but he bought it, he threw it on the floor, he didn't even use it. But it's one of those where it's like, why would you do that? Like, there's no way that's a mistake that you've done that, or maybe it was a mistake. That's the thing, we don't know. But that one, I think a lot of the community were like, did he get? Was there a conversation here that he's going to buy an M249? And like, that is the most ridiculous thing that probably doesn't change the outcome of the game whatsoever. But again, it goes back into, you can bet on anything. You can bet on absolutely anything, and it's just ridiculous.
And it's impossible to police this.
That's it. It's so difficult to govern. It's just how on earth do you track all of it, especially when you're not betting maybe on them losing the game. Like, that's obviously an easy one to maybe follow, but of course upsets happen in CS all the time. Like, especially if you're playing one BO3 out of the hundreds of BO3s you're playing in that month. Oh, you got upset here? What are the commentators going to say? They're going to say, "Oh, you got upset here, but they bounced back really quickly." You're not going to think anything of it. So it's really, you're right. It's almost, it's impossible. It's so impossible to govern. Like, how on earth would you go about policing it? Like, I have no idea. That's why that's why I'm quite passionate about the webcam thing, because at least then I get little comfort in my heart. So I'm like, oh, okay, at least we're actually doing something.
So I like that. Like that's the thing. I think that step one is like doing things. So the webcam thing I think is important too. I mean, there is a part of me that finds it a bit frustrating that some of these tier 2 organizations, like the conversation had happened, they had a little ban book. They knew where some of the problems were, and while they couldn't prove it, they knew it was problematic. The community talks, right? So everyone kind of had an idea of what was happening. Then Valve comes in and says, well, you got to get rid of that. But I feel like there should have been a conversation with Valve. Hey, listen.
Absolutely.
Correct me if I'm wrong, BDog, but 90% of these tier 2 organizations have direct links with the tier 2 organizers, direct links with betting companies, because the betting companies are the main financiers and sponsors. A lot of those betting companies have insights into what's going on here and feed it back. If I'm not mistaken, that was how this ban book came about, because the betting companies are going to the tournament organizers saying, hey, listen, we're watching this pattern. It looks a little bit shady. Keep an eye out on this. And it obviously there's conversations that have to happen. I can't believe I'm saying you have to have those conversations now with Valve, right? And say, hey, listen, like, this is the thing. But our problem is I would say it's the best thing about our esport, and the worst thing is that Valve is very hands off. They don't want to deal with it. They just go, okay, you guys sort it out, right?
Yeah, I mean, you phrase that well, but ultimately, like, how do you get in touch with Valve? Like, how is Valve going to respond to this?
Well, the TOs are in touch with them, right? Because they have to now run.
Oh, yeah, they are, but nothing's being done about it. But then if you ask someone in the community, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think Valve should address it? What are best thing and worst thing about this? What are probably 80% of the players people gonna say? There's a handful that will say yes. There's a handful that will say no. They got to sort the game out first. And again, it's about priorities. It's all about, because Valve's employees for CS reportedly is so low. There's only like a few people actually working on Counter-Strike. How do they have time to sort it all out? It's so ridiculous, and it really annoys me, because it's like, how do we love this game? Like, I love this game so much. Like, I know so many people that do, and yes, it's moving in the right direction now, and yes, we had a big update. We just got rid of that. We just wanted to make it more CT. We just sorted out the MP9. We've added Overpass, taken out Anubis to make everything a little bit more CT sided. We've added now this kill bonus to maybe distribute the economy. That still feels a little bit weird, but we won't get into that now. Completely different topic, but that took months. We've been crying out for an update to fix the economy for months, and it's taken about a year. So we're going to be screaming into the void about match fixing for years and years to come, unfortunately. But you are right what you're saying about the betting companies. Basically, you can spot trends. You suddenly, there's a lot of bets going on in this game. That's weird. That doesn't normally happen for these teams, etc. And then that gets flagged, and then TOs will talk amongst themselves and go from there. And yes, there's a lot of gambling. But I mean, the issue you've got as well is that gambling in my opinion, gambling holds up the tier 2 and the tier 3 space, because the amount of people that gamble on tier 2 and tier 3 are probably 90% of the viewer base for tier 2, tier 3. You get your little cluster of diehard fans, but you go do me a favor after you watch this episode, go in a Twitch chat for tier 2, tier 3 CS, go into CCT, go into a United Pro, for example, go into a European Pro League, look at it. I'm telling you, it's not about the game. There might be lol, haha, funny, he died in a weird way. 80% of it is add me on Discord. I got this bet. I've bet on this one. Oh, did it cash? Did it come in? It's all. This is why it can't be policed as well, though, because it does prop up the majority of tier 2 and tier 3.
Welcome to season 3 of Sell Me This Pro. It's freaking depressing. That's it. Like, I don't even know where to go with this, BDog. Like, we didn't really have a plan. We wanted to talk about this. I saw a lot of, someone was actually commenting on the channel saying that I should bring Kassad in here with you and King T and do like a still last free nation and do like the last 4 horsemen or whatever to talk about tier 2 cheating and betting. And I was like, no, like, love Kassad, like, but I don't really want that negativity. I want to like kind of give it a bit more of a positive conversation. That was the conversation we had before this.
Yeah,
and
sorry about that. I mean, you can't. The thing is, though, that the reality of the situation is there will be gambling in tier 2 and tier 3 because there's gambling on every single sport. That exists. That's how it is. There are a handful of teams that allegedly match fix and allegedly cheat. We've explained the reasons as to why match fixing is enticing, obviously, to young players, players that might not potentially make it, players that are just using, obviously, this opportunity whilst they're also studying, whilst they're not in the real adult world yet. So for them, it means nothing. And for us, obviously, it means a great deal. It's so hard to police because if you're trading in crypto, it's pretty much untraceable. If you're having conversations on match fixing, it's not about losing the game, it's about how many kills you get, for example. Like, it's actually ridiculous. Like, how on earth are you going to be able to track that? You just can't. You absolutely cannot. So that's impossible. Basically, it's all screwed up. Let's put the webcams in the corner. Let's have a monitor. Lovely stuff.
Let's try to do something. I tell you what, we've spoken a lot about this. We've kind of tried to showcase as much as we can. Let us know in the comments what you think the solution is. Maybe that's the way to go. Let's start a conversation here.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's do it.
You can jump BDog's webcam stuff. I mean, I know a bunch of you watching probably gamble. That's cool too. We're not judging you. Carry on. But we just want to know in the comments how you think we can do better here. And I suppose it is Sell Me This Pro. We don't have a pro today. We were just having this conversation, which I kind of liked. So I think that the only way I know how to kind of end this one, BDog, and reframe it is I'm going to say to you, why should people pay attention to tier 2 though? Not just for the cheating and the match fixing and the bullshit. I mean, there's a lot of positive coming from tier 2 as well, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we're doing an entire season about tier 2, tier 3. So why don't we showcase that? What is the good stuff? Because I mean, I have some opinions on this, but I'm sure you do as well.
For sure. Look, tier 2 and tier 3 Counter-Strike, we obviously just spoke about the bad that is the collective noise going on in the community, and that really is in a small vacuum. What's great about tier 2 and tier 3 Counter-Strike and why I love it so much and why it has been sort of part of my identity for the last few years is because firstly it's the grind, not just for me working as a commentator trying to break through and trying to cast the better events, but it's a grind for these players. The amount of best of threes that a team will go through and a team will play is ridiculous. Like, if you again go on HLTV, look at the amount of maps that Vitality, who have had the most successful season this year so far, look at how many maps they play. Go and look at a tier 2 team. Go look at TNL, for example. Like, it's ridiculous how many maps these guys play so consistently. Basically, what it means is you can watch their journey on a much more consistent basis. You can watch their improvements. And why this is interesting to me personally is because when they break through, when they get that shot, they haven't come out of nowhere because you've been following them the entire time. You know which players have been peaking. You know which players have improved quite a lot. I guess the clearest example last year was probably Passion UA. The fact that they made that Shanghai major, and for Bait as well this year. Bait making the major this year for the first time after so many attempts, after going 0-2 in the RMRs, 2-0 in the MRQ, finally making it to the major after so long. Why is that relevant? Because MPL used to be on NIP. Sorry, MPL used to be on Navi. There we go. Head Trick used to be on NIP. They had these little experiences when they were younger. Then they decided to drop down and grind in Tier 2, in Tier 3. They joined a team that has been playing for donkey's years in Tier 2 and Tier 3. You had Captain Kirka initially. You also had Essential, and you had Alex 666. These guys were playing in Tier 2, in Tier 3. Whenever it went to Tier 1 competitions, they couldn't step up. And that was always the narrative. You had Head Trick, you had MPL in Tier 2, consistently farming because we knew what to expect from them. But it's these unknown pieces. And the whole conversation in 2024 with Bait was Essential, Alex 666 needs to step up. You start seeing it. Essential starts having this gradual turn in performance. Alex 666 really has a great event. What happens at the MRQ? Alex 666 hits the incredible clutch to send Bait to the major. It's all this storyline in, it's all this watching their development, it's all this supporting their career, and it's exciting to see what happens in Tier 1 and Tier 2, because then they've made it, but they haven't gone from out of nowhere. They've been on this journey, and that's why Tier 2 and Tier 3 is so interesting, because it is such a journey from start to finish. It doesn't matter when you pick it up in the story, but it's interesting following just a pro's journey, and to be able to, for me personally, commentate that on a day-to-day basis, then go into a Tier 1 event that I've got the privilege of being able to cast, for example, like the RMRs was the most notable one, and then see, hey, look, these guys have come on the journey with me, and actually, if anything, I've just followed them, and now they're going to go and achieve bigger things. And then I go back to Tier 2 and I get to go watch it all again.
You were saying what I wanted to say, but you just did it so beautifully that I'm not even going to add to it, because bam, I think you summed it up so well. And it's why we're going to do the show, and it's why we're going to focus in on some of these teams and players, and hopefully you'll come along with us for the journey. BDog, I'm glad we're back. I'm glad we're doing this again. I'm glad you'll have furniture next time we chat as well.
Well, maybe. I don't know. It depends on when we next record. I think also to maybe steal the thunder a bit, in the comments, obviously we've said about speaking about what you think about the darker side of Tier 2 and Tier 3. Also, in the comments, tell us who you want me to speak about and feature, because I didn't do that enough last season to actually actively look at the comments and see what you guys want to do. I really want this to be more of a community involvement this time around as well, because we are speaking generally about Tier 2 and Tier 3. So if you do have people that you want to discuss, if you want my opinion on things, don't know why you would, but if you do want my opinion on things, just put it down below, and we can address it in the episodes. We record these frequently enough where I should be up to date with what you're saying. So yeah, please let me know. I kind of want this to be a lot more inclusive this season.
I dig that. So let us know in the comments. And also the next episode, we're going to do a sort of Blast Rivals pre-look at some of the up-and-coming teams, the unknown names that you might not be familiar with, because it is the start of the season, that are stepping up. BDog's going to showcase those a little bit. I'm going to just be here asking lots of random questions. But I'm keen, if you know a team that's going to be playing in Blast Rivals, maybe there's a player whose name has popped up that you care, let us know. Exactly like BDog said, we kind of want to make this a little bit more of a all of us together in the mix, right? So we will be back before Blast Rivals, but in the interim, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. We will see you soon. BDog's going to go hang up his clothes hooks now.